proud of my hatred. I'm proud of it. You should be proud to hate things. Interesting how our society, when I was growing up, my grandmother always used to say, oh, I hate that. And she'd say, don't say hate. Hate is too strong a word. Hate is a strong word. Come up with something else. Don't say hate. And it was always so confusing to me. Like, what do you mean? Why would this one word, I hate it. I don't like it a whole fucking lot. That makes a lot more sense to you. My grandma was so conservative and such a, she was, it's interesting because it just adds to the Project Paperclip shit, because my grandparents, they were very much like, Leave It to Beaver said be this way, we're going to be this way. Thanks for the like. I assume it's Matt, maybe it's Craig, I don't know. If you're watching, thanks for the like. Don't forget to like, share, sub, all that good stuff. It's just all interesting, man. And it's Hollywoodism. It's my grandparents were the quintessential, this is what you're supposed to be, this is what we're going to be. I was right, it's Craig. What's up, Craig? What's up, Craig? What you got on my drink? What's up, Craig? It's that Leave It to Beaver, keep your issues in the house, don't talk to people, always my good front, pretend to be something you're not. Fuck my mind, it just, goddamn it. Pretend to be something you're not. And I disagree with that. I'm a real big believer in it takes a village, and we should all be working together and united and all that stuff. I think part of the plan has always been to separate us and make us feel, isolated and alone. Home? Kids had to go to school, man. Shul. Had to take the kids to shul. To skew. Besides, the driver's driving, not me. I have a driver. He or she doesn't want to be shown on camera. So I keep that hidden. Because, I'm rich like that. I had a fucking driver drive me around in my piece of shit truck. What's up? Hugh and Son? Hugh and Son? I don't know. I'm doing my best. The Hollywoodism, the television is their best weapon. The best weapon they've ever created and implemented against us has been television. And like I say, I'm so proud to hate something so disgusting, something I've been told I'm not allowed to hate. I'm around this topic a bit. Sure what the hell you're talking about, but right on. Hey, if you're watching, make sure you like, share, and up. Appreciate it. This is the page. Wally, what's going on? What's up, Beeve? This is the one channel where we're gonna say it. We're gonna proudly say that we hate this shit. We hate your cult. It's a cult. It's a disgusting, horrible cult. And just because not all of the members partake in all of the worst things doesn't make it okay. All the people that don't partake, they still support and protect the cult. And if they weren't worried about us talking about it, and they didn't know how powerful it is that, you know, that we don't keep our heads in the sand, then they wouldn't make it illegal to talk about. Busy's good. Cult of Jayism, man. You should know this by now. Don't talk about too many other things. I just don't see the point. I know there are lots of other people that are going to talk about lots of other things, but to me, like, damn near everything seems like a distraction. Yeah, it might be real, but it's to distract us. It's to keep us from looking at what's going on. There is a genocide happening right now, guys. There is a fucking genocide. And it's I mean, it's as disgusting as it gets. They're starving the people. They're dropping bombs on tents. These people have been reduced to living in a tent, in little manufactured tent villages. And the Israelis are dropping bombs on them. Like, I mean, it's just insane. It's insane how accustomed to it we are, and how, you know, how well all of you sleep at night, right? All of you sleep at night nice and comfortable in your bed, worried about, oh, I hope, you know, I hope Susie doesn't say something to me I don't like at work today. I hope I can pay my light bill this month, whatever it may be. While there's a genocide taking place. And I can at least tell myself, my children, you know, my children have seen it. My children have witnessed the hatred, the unreasonable bullshit that's come my way for speaking this way. And yet, you know, I'm the one that's... It's interesting how time, life, reality has done nothing but prove me right. Justified it. There's still protests here every weekend about it. Yeah, well, I haven't heard about the protests wherever you are. Just like nobody's talking about Lev Tahor. The J cult in shit. Why am I drawing a blank right here? Lev Tahor is this J cult that they discovered. When they moved to South America, I want to say Argentina, but I'm wrong. Where it's Hasidic Jays, and they you know, human trafficking, rape, all this shit. Like, it's just nuts that it's not being talked about by mainstream media. Lev Tahor, oh, that's a band. Go figure. The struggle to rescue children in Guatemala. So I was close. Good morning to Dubai. You know, isn't it interesting how you're not seeing a response from places like Dubai, UAE, Bahrain, you know, all of these sort of first world Muslim countries. Cheers to Vancouver. You know, I know it's again, it's just one of these strange things where the system has made Americans and Canadians hate each other. We hate each other. We don't even know why. Those darn Canucks. You know, it's just fucking stupid. It's all about distracting us and keeping us chasing boogeymen instead of looking at who the real bad guys are. You know, the cult is the strangest thing is the cult, they see us, they don't see us as Canadians or people from Dubai or any, I don't know what Dubaians are called. They don't look at us as these individual problems. Everything that isn't them is goyim. Whether it's people, whether it's furniture, whether it's animals, whatever it is, it's all goyim, and it's here to service them. Yep, we have a submarine engineer on here for sure. I bet. I don't hate Canadians. Donald does. Think that's supposed to be a Donald Trump comment? I'm not really sure. But this is the real truth, is that they view us as one entire entity, one goyim entity that isn't them. So why don't we do the same? I'm not saying you shouldn't be like, you shouldn't enjoy your historical background, but to look at it as a separation measure, as something that makes you different from other people. That's what they do. This is how this works. And then, of course, if you don't think that they're going to find pages like mine and try to interfere, you're crazy. What has Canada done to the U.S.? We did nothing but respect our treaty obligations that Trump himself signed and praised. Trump's a piece of shit. Trump is just an actor, though. The idea of Canada and America and all, these are just ideas that they give us. When you look up the history behind these things, you'll see narratives that just don't quite make sense. And they lead to more questions than anything, and those questions won't get answered. Trump is entertaining. I guess if you're a piece of shit, I don't know what's entertaining about him. He's off-putting as fuck. I wouldn't watch Trump do anything. I would never watch the Trump channel because the way he talks, the stupidity he says, like, it's all terrible. I was watching this clip the other day, and it's funny how people don't like hone in on this, but like when you can tell when he's reading something because he's a terrible reader, but he'll say things like, and then blah blah blah. This, that he'll be reading it, and Israel says that they will be doing this, that, and the other, and then he always stops and goes, and that's good, that's true, yeah, that, like, you can tell he's barely interact. If he's read the speech before that, I doubt it, but he like agrees with himself, like he's reading it, like, oh yeah, that is true, okay. Like, he's dumb as shit. Joe is boring. Yeah. If you're foolish enough to fall for one of two choices, all of which are Israeli puppets, I don't even know what to say. Like, you're just dumb. I think it's crazy how Creepy Joe got the pedo moniker when Trump is by far the worst pedo. But by far. Everybody made this big deal about Joe smelling the girl's hair. The girl was in front of him, and he smelled her hair. Maybe she had nice smelling shampoo. Maybe she had a shampoo that reminded him of his kid or something like that, but he smiled. It's a little weird. But it's I can relate to that. Having kids, I can relate. That things will happen and it'll put a smile on your face because it reminds you of your children. Joe's dead. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. The original Joe Biden definitely is, because that guy we got shown, the guy that became that definitely wasn't the Joe Biden from before. If you've seen the comparative before and afters of Joe in Congress compared to Joe the president, granted he got older, granted he had surgery, but that looks like a completely different guy. I love all the dumb troll comments. Because it's like you're basically acknowledging that you're too stupid to have the adult conversation. You can't actually engage in adult stuff, so you're like, duh, I'm gonna say stupid things. Like it's interesting how that works. Everybody's brainwashed when all they do. I love when people say dumb shit and act like they know where the source is. I know I don't watch Fox News. I never do. I know I get all my news from where they wanted me to. It's important to know what they want the goyim to know. It's important that you pay attention. Doesn't mean you should believe it wholeheartedly. Know that they're going to lie to you and manipulate you through the news, but it's good to know what your fellow goyim know. I mean, I almost, a lot of these profiles are trolls, but a lot of them are bots. And again, it's just interesting to see, like, if you could come up with something, I bet you would. You're here, you're obviously commenting, you want attention, but you're just not smart enough. And it's embarrassing for you, and you just don't even realize it. Yeah, Al Jazeera is the like the allowed counterpoint. If there wasn't an Al Jazeera, people would be like, well, why isn't there anybody talking about it? But they give you Al Jazeera, and so then people think that there's true opposition. But it's all controlled. It's all bullshit. And it's all Israeli. Look at this shit. Yep. I definitely live alone, don't I, sweetheart?
Yeah.
See? I even made it sound like it. It's hardly allowed, banned ages ago. What was banned ages ago? Al Jazeera pops up all the time. Al Jazeera is the, again, it's just fake. It's where you go to get your counterpoints, but it's all of this fake bullshit. Al Jazeera could say a lot of things, but they don't. And the reality is, it's just like the trolls and the bots and shit. Everything is to distract us from what's going on. The system tells you it's okay for you to say free Palestine. It's okay for you to oppose Zionism. Oh, I oppose the Zionists. The thing you're not supposed to say is, I hate that cult. The entire cult. The cult behind the reason why we say free Palestine. You're even allowed to say, to a degree, you're allowed to say you don't support Israel and shit like that. But Israel is nothing. Israel is just an idea. Israel is a bunch of invisible lines that they just tell us is a country, is this, that, and the other. But it's nothing. You could have a different group of people and still call it Israel, and it would be a completely different thing. It's just an illusion. Free Palestine is just the thing they allow us to say. But I refuse to say free Palestine to the Lebanese. I refuse to say free Palestine to the Syrians, to the fucking, the Iranians, the Iraqis, and all the other, countries that are going to be attacked. Saudi Arabia, even though kind of fuck Saudi Arabia, but more than anything, it's fuck the system, not the people. The people are stuck. They're brainwashed, fucking idiots. And given the choice, given the option to be something different, they would. Yeah, the people who pretend like the obvious Jays who pretend like they don't understand what Palestine is, the place that was there forever. At least according to the historical record that can sort of be proven through people being there. Israel is the new, they just made it. And the thing is, most people just don't understand the crazy shit that went into Israel existing. Free Palestine, I hear what you're saying. You have good intent. But it's not free Palestine. That's not the rally cry. The rally cry is end Jayism. We have to end the cult that is hurting the Palestinians, the Lebanese, the Syrians, and the rest of us. Just because you're not getting bombs dropped on your head doesn't mean you're living the best life you could possibly live. There was no Israel prior to 1948. It wasn't a thing. The Jays decided that they wanted this place, and actually the narrative goes much further back. It goes back to the Balfour Declaration. Like the two world wars were about Israel. Yeah, there were other things that were done, but it was about establishing Israel to begin with. Look at the desperate comments. I always find it strange to think that there are people that are going to come here and be mad because I'm talking about ending genocide, ending the supremacy, putting more dollars in Americans' pockets, or at least into the country itself, ending the pedophilia. Like, who is going to say anything to the contrary or negative about the guy that's talking about these things, other than dumb Jays, dumb J trolls, dumb J bots? When you run out of things to say, you start making up shit. And anybody that says things like, "Oh, that guy's in his 2-story basement," blah, 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 blah. Like, if I can disprove what you're saying by just turning my phone around, it shows you how desperate the stupidity is to try to change the course of the conversation. It's just desperate stupidity. You know nothing. Right. Well, tell me what I'm wrong about. Why is it that all of these dumbass profiles can come through and talk shit, but they can never tell me exactly what I'm wrong about? If I know nothing, then educate me. Help me understand what I'm getting wrong and what I think I know and I'm wrong about. This is a scary, scary time. I feel bad for your neighbors. Blah, blah, blah. Your hair, blah. Look at all this shit. All of these people are people who apparently support genocide. Who are these people? Who the fuck are these people? Why is it when asked, elaborate on what you're saying, they say nothing? Right? Yeah, got to keep those germs in your body. Got to keep the germs in, because you're dumb enough to believe in invisible germs, in germ theory. Just happens to work out that as Rockefeller is cornering the market on drugs and petroleum-based drugs and shit like that, all of a sudden the germ theory comes out. It's funny because I can tell you what all of you believe. Damn near everybody watching me believes that little invisible germs are always trying to invade your body. Right? Again, it's just more J propaganda bullshit. It's just insane. You're distracted by this idea that you're under invasion. You're being invaded by invisible germs. By the Germans. Yep. Blah, blah, blah. If I'm so wrong and bad at this, Tell me what I'm getting wrong. Don't keep pointing out how stupid you are, how desperate you are for my attention. Tell me what I'm getting wrong. You know, why would any of you not come in here and be like, yeah, fuck this genocide. It's disgusting what's happening right now. Doesn't matter what your history is. You can find endless videos of children, like children being pulled out from underneath rubble and shit. Children wandering around looking for any adult because all of the adults in their family have been killed. Yeah, don't care about Muslims. Islam and Christianity are just more J tricks. It's all just bullshit. But at least we know, like, you know, we know who this person is. So we have yet another dumb J who comes on here and talks shit but can't actually tell me what's wrong. Right? We don't care about Islam. No, you're a piece of shit. Hey, I'm sure you don't. Only thing you care about is your own stupid shit. The craziest thing is, though, how those people who identify as Christians, I just can't. How are you so stupid? How are you? Like, how is the group, the cult, convinced you people to think the bad guys in your Bible, you know, the not Satan, because it's funny how most Christians really don't know what their shit is, right? Like, they don't know the real nature behind their beliefs. They walk around saying the Jays are God's chosen people. And it's because that's what their cult has told them to think. But it's just, like, if you're a Christian, that means you're not a chosen person. If you're not God's chosen people, then what are you? If you're not the chosen, then what does that make you? Right? Nobody calls me chicken. Oh, this is the best you can come up with? Come on. You can do better than that. Don't you think it's crazy that as one religion, you believe a completely different religion, one that hates you, one that killed your Jesus, you know, they killed your superhero, your Christian God's only son, they killed him, and somehow those are your Christian God's chosen people. Do you not understand how silly that is? And at the end of the day, I mean, all three are the three Abrahamic religions. Like, they put it out. They just tell you right out in the open. It's all Abraham. These are the three Abrahamic religions. Do you ever bother to ask who Abraham was? Because Abraham is the main bad guy in the Bible. And he's, you know, he's the father of the J people. Huh?
Hidden beneath Manhattan, the abandoned City Hall subway station is a masterpiece of 20th century architecture.
Right.
Opened in 1904, it features Romanesque revival design, Guastavino tile vaults, brass chandeliers, and arched skylights. Closed in 1945 due to its curved platform operational limitations. It remains one of the most architecturally striking remnants of New York's transit history. Underground.
Right. All underground. That's underground.
1904.
What were they? That was opened in 1904. So when did they build it?
1980 or 1885.
Right? 1885. What technology did they have in the 1800s to be able to allow them to tunnel through the solid rock underneath a place like New York while still allowing for the buildings and shit to be standing? Like the insanity of it is just, it's mind-blowing. But it's the same shit as you see on my feed, right? Why don't these people come in and just, if I'm wrong and I'm crazy, why don't they just tell me what I'm wrong and crazy about? You know, if you're so well versed in the Bible, then tell me, who are all the characters in the Bible? You know, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but everyone in the Bible is J. It's a bunch of J bullshit. They had real men back then. Yeah, that's what it is. They had real men, and if they were real men, they were capable of tunneling underground. Today's people aren't real men because they don't beat people, and their people are, you know. The funny thing is it was actually a common thing back then. It just wasn't talked about like it is now. It wasn't vilified. So you think stupid things because of it. Pyramids are so interesting. The pyramids, again, the pyramids are almost like, yeah, they're fucking cool. Yeah, they're incredible. But as far as the structures that exist on this planet, the pyramids are like nothing. You know, star forts are way more incredible to me than pyramids, especially the star fort cities. But there are countless castles, gymnasiums apparently, because gymnasiums are a word for schools. I never knew that. But cathedrals and churches and castles and just go to India. Just go look at the architecture throughout India. And clearly something else was going on. Clearly we're just sort of picking up pieces. And I unfortunately, I think Tartaria and that whole idea is actually one of the best distractions they've ever given us. You know, it's one of those things that instead of feeling bad about when you look it up, like the whole pedo Hollywood or human trafficking bullshit, like you feel bad when you look into that. It just feels gross and it's horrendous. Whereas if you start looking into Tartaria, you're going to be validated every step of the way. You're going to just be impressed. It's amazing. So Tartaria ends up being this fantastic distraction. Because imagine all of the Tartaria videos and all the people that put those videos out and everything. Imagine if those people were doing that same incredible effort, but they were doing it to expose Israel and the Jays. Wow. Imagine hearing what I'm saying and being so overwhelmed and so stupid that you revert back to, this guy voted for Joe Biden. Duh. Like, can you imagine being that stupid? I'm sure some of you know exactly what that means and how that feels. But like all of you idiot that Trump supporters out there, right? This the funniest thing about Trump supporters is when you start talking about facts, they just have nothing. They don't have an argument. You know, all of you Trump supporting America First people, why aren't you more upset about the fact that Trump is literally destroying the First Amendment? You need to stop self-educating, right? I need to stop looking things up myself. I need to just be told what to think. Stop reading all the information they want us to know. The thing is, again, if somebody's wrong, then it shouldn't be an issue to tell them what they're wrong about. You know, if if all of the protests and all of the BDS stuff and everything like that was wrong, then there would be this effort to sort of show you what's wrong with it, why it's wrong, and why we should be supporting Israel. We should be supporting the Jays. And you never, ever see it. All they ever tell you to do is don't talk about it. Stop talking about it. You can't say that. You can't say that. I mean, look at the comments. Look how stupid they are. Rick Hansen. Who's Rick Hansen? Don't you mean Chris Hansen, you dumbass? Get your shit right. You can't even get your burns right. That's how stupid you are. You're one of the people that protested when To Catch a Predator was brought to the neighborhood, and no, they're bringing pedophiles into our neighborhoods. That got the show cut off. This is the stupidity that we deal with, right? This is how stupid people have to be. You have to be this stupid. There's a reason why they give you the Jesus. But like I said, if Israel was the good guy and the Jays were the good guys, they'd embrace it. They'd embrace the criticism, and they would, do everything they could to sort of change people's minds and help people understand where they're coming from. But they don't. And that tells you everything you need to know. Are you saying Jesus isn't real? Abso-fucking-lutely. You want to talk about one of the dumbest stories ever created? It's Jesus. It's so terribly stupid, especially everything that Jesus does and says in the Bible. And if the fucked up part is, most of you claim to be Christians, but you don't actually know the shit. You don't know the dumb nonsense. Oh yeah, Jesus Christ bloodline comes from kings and queens of France. Jesus Christ bloodline comes from kings and queens of France. Yeah, okay. France was real big back then, huh? It's just stupid. It's just incredibly stupid. Christians are just dumb. They don't know their own shit. I know when I was growing up, I thought the whole Jesus made the blind see. That's what Jesus, he helped the blind to see. I always thought that was like almost like a televangelist sort of thing, where there was a bunch of blind people and Jesus sort of waved his hand and then made everyone see. That's what I thought it was. When I looked it up, you want to talk about one of the dumbest stories in the Bible and really, really fucked up shit, right? So Jesus is going from temple to temple using Godspeed. And he is being questioned. And the whole time when Jesus is being questioned, he's going, "Come on, you need to believe what I'm saying. My dad is God. Why don't you believe me?" Like, he's just whining the whole fucking time. It's a joke. But at one point, Jesus is coming out of one of the temples. Yes. And old blind Billy is sitting there off to the side, right? And old blind Billy is a staple in this town. Everybody knows old blind Billy. He's a terrible person. And then the way they make him a pariah is, he's blind, so he's this awful human being. And so he just sits on the side of the road begging people for extra change and shit. He's spanging. You got any spare change, bro? Bro, you got any spare change? So Jesus goes out. He goes up to old blind Billy. And he spits into the sand to make a paste. Now, if you just think about, like, they're basically in the desert, right? Go to the beach. Next time you go to the beach, spit into the sand and see how much spit it takes you to form a paste. So Jesus is just hawking loogies, hawking loogies, hawking loogies. Finally forms this paste that he then takes and wipes it in old blind Billy's eyes. You know, because that's fucking nice. And then he says, okay, blind Billy, go over to that river over there and rinse out. Not here's a bucket of water, rinse out. You got to go into the river. Make your way over to the river and rinse your face. So old blind Billy goes, rinses his face, comes out, now he can see. Everybody's like, holy shit. One of his followers, Jesus' followers, says, hey, Jesus, let me ask you a quick question, right? What did like blind Billy do? What did his parents do something? Were they like evil people because his parents lived on the outskirts of town and they were also pariahs because they had a blind son? Jesus, what did they do to deserve such a terrible fate? And Jesus says, "Oh, verily, verily," because that's his thing. Verily, verily. He says that at some point, his dad, he owns a dealership. My dad owns a dealership. He'll hook you up. That his dad knew that at some point he was going to need to prove that he had magical powers. So in order for Jesus to be able to prove his magical powers, blind Billy had to be where he was when he was there. And so, you know, the reason why Billy was blind and his family was a pariah and all these things is so Jesus could show you the miracle when the time came. I mean, it's just so fucking weird, right? How about the whole Jesus fed the congregation with the 2 fish and the blah, you know, that whole bullshit. Like when you actually look at what that story says, it's really fucked up. Because apparently Jesus was being followed by thousands and thousands of people. And apparently they never had a problem feeding themselves prior. But this one night, they couldn't feed themselves. So the disciples are like, Jesus, what are we going to do? And Jesus says, okay, don't worry about it. You, my disciples here, you eat the fish. You eat of these 2 fish and then put your scraps in the basket. Put your crusts of bread in the basket and your fish scraps. And once they gorge themselves and eat, then it doesn't really say that the basket produced a bunch more fish or anything. It just says that the people ate out of the fish scraps. It doesn't, you know, no more fish was produced or anything. It wasn't like that magic trick that they show you where the fish just keep coming out of the bucket. It's just the fish, they just eat. But the funny thing is, Jesus got mad. And he was like, man, these people fucking need me to feed them and shit. I'm leaving. And they woke up the next day and Jesus bounced. He was mad because they needed him and he didn't want the people to rely on him for sustenance. Like, this is the dumb shit you believe. This is the craziness that they have you believe. Oh, did they shut the comments off? Yep, looks like it. Gotta love how they shut the comments off whenever it starts it really starts getting going. Why do you think that is? I can tell you from my perspective, it's because they want you guys to think I'm ignoring your shit. They want you to think I'm ignoring your comments and I you know, you're trying to be a part of this and I'm just ignoring you. By the way, like, share, and sub if you're watching. It actually helps. I mean, have you ever seen a live feed like this before where at some point the comments just get shut off? Someone just shuts the comments off from some position? I don't know. Usually it's after the hour mark. We're early today. We must have had more viewers than they were expecting. But it's, you know, the Bible is just J propaganda bullshit. They are the stars. They are who all the stories are about. A few different times in the Bible, it literally mentions Goyim. You know, it talks about the separate thing that is the Goyim. It's not a part of the main story. They're the afterthought. They're the side story. We are the side story. And these are the people that are committing genocide right now. These are the people that enslave you without you realizing it. Or you know what, you do realize it. It's just, it's nice. We're allowed to have nice things. So we see the slavery, we just, we bitch about it. All of you people that think you're big shit because you own your house. Stop paying taxes and see how long you own your house. Let the system decide that they want to put a highway through your property. Or they find some minerals and shit underneath your property. See how long you own your house. It's all an illusion. I've been one of these guys that for a long time has been sort of calling out the Constitution people. Like, I love First Amendment auditors. I think they're fantastic. I really respect what they do. Guys like Press NH Now, guys like Direct D, guys like Auditing Erie County, and, all these guys. These guys are fucking heroes. They're brave as shit, man. They're much more brave than I am. But at the end of the day, they're pushing more brainwash bullshit. The Constitution is just more of that bullshit that was written, by people that we have no idea. Especially once you start going down the Tartaria rabbit hole. Anybody that sort of even a little bit accepts Tartaria and the whole reset idea and the old world, that should eliminate all of it. Once you realize that there was probably some sort of reset and that there was a more advanced version of us here that was wiped out, why would you believe any of the bullshit they tell you? Like, it really is just like what are we missing there? What aren't you guys understanding? It always amazes me how many people question everything. They're the biggest truthers in the world, and yet they still believe in Jesus for some fucked up reason. You believe in the superhero that the largest pedophile organization in the world tells you to believe in. When you talk about pedos, if I say the word pedophile, if you're honest, we say play a word association game, and I say the word pedophile, priest is going to be the first thing that comes to your mind. Those words just go together at this point. Pedophile, priest. And it's the one place where it really shouldn't be. Of anywhere, God's house is the bad place, but look, all the cardinals wear yarmulkes. All the higher-ups in the religion wear yarmulkes. That should tell you something. And I just find it fascinating that people will like you see it on stupid cop shows like Chicago PD or not Chicago PD, Blue Bloods. There's a few episodes of Everyone Loves Raymond where Raymond's having issues in his marriage, and he goes and talks to the priest about it. Why the fuck would you talk to some virgin who's never had to pay bills, never had to live a normal life? Why would you get your life advice from someone in that position? A fucking virgin. How many times does somebody as an adult tell you they're a virgin and you go, oh wow, that's really awesome? And you automatically think that person's a fucking weirdo. What the fuck? Why are you a virgin? You know, it's all part of the brainwash. And the thing is, you know, I ask you guys repeatedly, just show me stuff, tell me stuff. I'll look it up. We can go into whatever detail you want. We can explore whatever. You tell me what I'm getting wrong. Because I feel like I've done a lot of research. And you know, the funniest part is I'm looking up what they want us to know. I don't go into conspiracy sites and all that shit. What they want us to know is what you should be looking at. Look, see, they fuck up the comment section, so the numbers drop. That's how that works. You guys need to show them that you will stand up to them no matter what. Like, share, sub. Show the fucking system that you're not going to take this bullshit. You know, I don't know how many different examples I need to show you to prove to you that Israel controls social media. Whether it's Team Jorge, which is just one Israeli Black Ops organization that was exposed as having 30,000 plus fake profile bots that they can sick on anyone, anything, anytime. Or it's Naftali Bennett talking about how when Wikipedia was first introduced, Israel made sure that they were teaching the editors how to edit and that they had their people in charge because, as he said, if you look up the Gaza something or other, we want you to have our perspective of it. Why do any of you support Jayism? Why would any of you? It's crazy because, like, you see these people that come in here and they talk shit. So they're basically saying they don't support the same things I support. Yet they don't proudly boast for whatever they do support. You never see anybody come in here and proudly express why they support Israel, why they support the Jays. You know, you'll never see that. I won't see it now because the comments are fucked up. But I've been doing this for a long time. And I'm, you know, instead of asking people what I'm getting wrong, just tell me some good stuff. Tell me some good stuff about the Jays that warrants us keeping this cult in the position it's in. You know, you guys don't even understand, you know, so many levels of this shit. When you understand what Matitza Betpa is, which is you know, associated with Brit Milah and the Bris. The Bris is the party, Brit Milah is the circumcision, and Matitza Betpa is the suction, the oral suction that they do to their own children. If they have parties where they stand around and watch as a pedo mutilates and then violates their own children, what do you think they'll do to your children? You think that gives weight to the blood libel? You know, the crazy part is, again, I'd not want to sit here and tell you that everything on Wikipedia is true, but it is what they want you to know. It's the narrative they want you to know. And if you look up well poisoning, you know, drinking water wells being poisoned, it only talks about the Jays. The narrative they want you to know only talks about the Jays doing it. Nobody else is known to be poisoning drinking water systems. If you look up the term blood libel, it's an accusation. It's a claim that the Jays have been killing Christian children in general, and then draining their blood and using it for their rituals, baking it into their matzah, and then and whatever other rituals they want to do. This has been an accusation that has held steady and only on them for over 1,000 years. How does a falsehood plague a certain group of people for over 1,000 years. It's not true. I read you an article the other day, an Israeli article. They put it out, Israel Hot Sauce or some weird fucking, I don't remember what the name of it was. But they talk about how abuse, child abuse, rape, you know, physical and just awful abuse is a pretty ritualistic, common thing in Israel amongst the J people. Raping children is part of their thing. It's fucking insane how well documented it is, how well known it is. And we just allow it. We pay for it. You know, as an American, at the very least, we give them $3.8 billion a year. Canada gives them another $2 billion. Australia gives them $1.2 billion. And then just the countless other countries around the fucking world that give Israel money. That $3.8 billion that we give them, once it turns into shekels, Israeli money, it's now 35, or it's around $35 billion. Wait. No, sorry, around $15 billion, sorry. 3.8 billion turns into about 15 billion. 15 billion shekels every year at the very minimum is taken from you and given to this first world murderous organization. Why are you okay with that? Especially all you Trumpanzee fucking maggots out there.
For example, you could do a gliding window instead of a casement. We have a lot of ways to make window projects.
Like, it's just shocking, man. Like, it wouldn't matter to me what organization, what club I said I belong to. If I find out that there are children being raped and murdered like crazy and blah, I'm going to be against it. And if I find out that it's a part of the same organization that I belong to, and that organization is doing nothing to stop it, I'm not going to be a part of that organization anymore. Where the fuck is the Vatican? Interesting how the Vatican has the same response to the genocide taking place as all the Muslim countries. But there is a difference there because the Muslim countries are all fucking locked into the Abraham Accords. Trump's legacy is the Abraham Accords. And most of you don't even know what the fuck the Abraham Accords are. You've heard that term before, but you don't know what the fuck it is. You know, if I tell you that the Abraham Accords are about normalization deals, does any of you know what that means? Do any of you know what a normalization deal is? I wonder if they've actually added a definition to it, because I couldn't find it. I couldn't find any proper definition of normalization deal. Let's see if we can find one. Normalization deal. Let's see. Oh, they added one. Let's check this out. The Israel United Arab Emirates Normalization Agreement, officially the Abraham Accords Peace Agreement, Treaty of Peace, diplomatic relations, and full normalization between the United Arab Emirates and the State of Israel. Lots of things to unpack there. Why is it the State of Israel? I had some dumbass come on here one day and tell me that it's because state and country are interchangeable. Like, no, stupid. States belong to a country. A country is much greater than a state. So why would any country refer to themselves as a state? That's like you as a man walking around going, well, I'm just a teenager. You're not a teenager. You're a fucking man. Man up. But why is it called the State of Israel? Other than it's a United State. It's one of the United States. You know, the state of Arizona, the state of Michigan. That's how shit's referred to. And it would make more sense, especially when you look back and you see when Joe Biden condemned the genocide taking place. And Bezalel Smotrich went out into the media and said that Biden needs to shut his mouth and worry about his own affairs. Israel is no longer a star on the United States flag. What the fuck does that mean? Did any of you ever remember Israel being one of the stars on the flag? Interestingly, our flag has those same Israeli stars on them. 50 stars of David. But hey, that has nothing. That's just coincidence, I'm sure, right? The state of Israel. This says, in full normalization. What does normalization mean? What does normalization mean? Let's find out, shall we? Because we're going to keep looking. Was initially agreed to in a joint statement by the U.S., Israel, and the United Arab Emirates. At the end of the day, why is the United States brokering deals between terrorist monster Israel and anyone? Especially like a terrorist organization like Saudi Arabia. You know, Saudi Arabia has the Islam that you're scared of. The bad Islam, the Wahhabi Islam. That's Saudi Arabia. So you know, the idea of the American president of the United States, trying to manufacture, being the middleman between two of the worst, most guilty of war crimes countries in the world, that seems a little sus to me. I don't know about y'all, but I definitely don't think our American president should have anything to do with it, let alone be the main like go-between between the two countries. And this is where so many of you are just foolish, because so many of you, you know, you fall for the division. You when they put on this play, this show that you know, Biden and Trump, Harris and Trump, well, they disagree on this and they disagree on that, blah blah blah. Shouldn't you be asking what the things they actually do agree on then? And if you look, the main thing that they agreed upon was Israel. I don't even remember, like, I know that there were mentions of it during the time, but we were so wrapped up in the COVID fucking fiasco bullshit that we definitely didn't know about Katie Johnson, right? Most of you don't know about Katie Johnson. The 13-year-old girl that Trump raped. You guys remember that? You guys remember in like June of 2020 when it made it all the way to the courts? There are court documents where Trump and Epstein are labeled the defendants. And Katie Johnson is a girl who alleged that on 4 different occasions, both Trump and Epstein violated her. And the only reason it didn't go any further is not because they found out that this girl was lying or that you know, it was a fake story or whatever. She had to drop out because she said she couldn't, her and her family didn't want to deal with the harassment that was coming their way. Why isn't that more commonly known? This was at the height of COVID. Probably for the same reason. So many stupid people think Biden was the one that locked us down. I can't believe how many trumpets think that Biden did it. We weren't locked down when Biden came into office. That Trump didn't do it. Biden did it. It's fucking nuts. But I don't remember during the Trump presidency all this news coverage about how he's going back and forth to the Middle East so he can try to broker these deals. You know, we were just completely distracted. We were distracted by Me Too. We were distracted by impeachment bullshit. We were distracted by invaders coming from the South. We were distracted by measles and Michael Jackson and, you know, all this bullshit. Anything to keep us from looking at it. How many of you remember the agreement, the normalization deal, initially agreed to in a joint statement by the U.S., Israel, and the United Arab Emirates on August 13th, 2020. Do you guys remember that shit? Do you guys remember the big story about the Abraham Accords going through, and then, you know, all of the parameters behind it? Why the United Arab Emirates decided to allow Israel normalization? They say it's about recognizing Israel as a state or an entity, but it's so much deeper than that. All of those countries that sign these agree that no matter what happens, they will not attack Israel. That's why you're not seeing anyone coming to the defense of the Palestinians. Because they're all locked into these normalization deals that just happened to be signed right before all of this took place. Officially referred to as the Abraham Accords. The UAE thus became the third Arab country after Egypt in 79 and Jordan in 94 to formally normalize its relationship with Israel. As well as the first Persian Gulf country to do so. Concurrently, Israel agreed to suspend plans for annexing parts of the West Bank. Did they? They agreed to suspending the plans, not getting rid of them, because obviously it's happening. But even still, why would the UAE give a shit if Israel annexed part of the West Bank? It's not part of the United Arab Emirates. But this is just more of that bullshit. The agreement normalized, they just love throwing this word out like that's a normal word to use. Normalized what had long been informal but robust foreign relations between the two countries. The agreement was signed at the White House on September 15th, 2020. You guys remember that? Do you remember the big deal about the normalization deal being signed at the White House? And again, them telling you all about the parameters behind it? It was approved unanimously by the Israeli cabinet on October 12th and was ratified by the Knesset on October 15th. The UAE parliament and cabinet ratified the agreement on October 19th. The agreement went into effect on January 5th, 2021. Do you guys remember anything else happening on January 5th, January 6th of 2021? Huh. Seems like there was something big that was happening right around then. But what the fuck do I know, right? There wasn't a big deal on January 5th, January 6th. We weren't completely distracted by something else when this was going down, were we? Look at the picture. Just disgusting. And the symbolism, right? Trump sitting in between the United Arab Emirates with the red folder. And look at Netanyahu's fucking face. Look at that piece of shit's face. They just know they're pulling some bullshit on us. On October 16th, 2020, the UAE for the first time established telephone links to Israel by unblocking direct dialing to Israel's plus 972 country code. The first direct commercial flight from Israel to the UAE took place on August 31st, 2020, and the first ship carrying cargo from the UAE to Israel entered the port of Haifa on October 12th. Man, it's almost like when the governments want to work fast, they do. I'm trying to find if there's any actual information on this. We'll see. As early as 1971, the year in which the UAE became an independent country, the first president of the UAE, Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, had referred to Israel as the enemy. Rightfully, they should. The UAE and the United States had a strategic relationship since the 1990 Gulf War, growing to a significant U.S. Air Force present at El Dafir Air Force Base after the September 11th attacks. Yeah, that makes sense. Doesn't that make sense? In November 2015, Israel announced that it would open a diplomatic office in the UAE, which would be the first time in more than a decade that Israel had an official presence in the Persian Gulf. In the months leading up to the agreement, Israel had been working in secret with the UAE to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. What? European news reported that Mossad had discreetly obtained health equipment from the Gulf states. Dickhead douchebag Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, reported at the end of June 2020 that the two countries were in cooperation to fight the coronavirus, and that the head of Mossad, Yossi Cohen, had traveled numerous times to the UAE. Why was Netanyahu the prime minister at that point? Was that like that small window that he was prime minister? Because Israel had 5 different prime ministers in just under 4 years. So in 3 years, Israel had 5 prime ministers. And we didn't jump in to go fix that democratic bullshit, did we? No, that was just allowed to exist. And I could swear that in 2020, it must have been that small window, I guess. However, the UAE appeared to downplay this a few hours later by revealing it was merely an arrangement among private companies rather than at state level. The move also comes in the wake of the Trump administration's repudiation. How do you say that word? Repudiation. Repudiation. Yeah. Of the Iran nuclear deal, and following persistent Israeli suspicions that the Iranian nuclear program includes a program to develop atomic bomb capacities. Isn't it funny how supposedly we were able to develop the atomic bomb, fucking decades and decades ago, and yet for some reason they want to do it, they just can't. Iran just can't come up with the formula to build the atomic bomb after all this time. Kind of seems stupid. Something which Tehran denies. Currently, Iran and Saudi Arabia are engaging in backing different factions in proxy wars from Syria to Yemen, with the UAE supporting the Saudi-led and U.S.-sponsored coalition against the Iran-aligned forces. Isn't it amazing how Iran has been the bad guy for such a long time, and yet they still seem to be this persistent threat? Of course, you can't actually show me how Iran has posed danger to anyone other than Israeli bullshit telling you that Iran backed this person or that person, this group or that group. But there's no direct connections to Iran anywhere. It's just more boogeyman bullshit. In recent years, the country's informal relations warmed considerably, and they engaged in extensive unofficial cooperation based on their joint opposition to Iran's nuclear program and regional influence. The agreement represented a major policy reversal for Netanyahu, who had long pushed for increasing settlements in the occupied West Bank. Gee, I wonder if it's stuck. With an objective of annexing the territory. I mean, this is old. Like this entry here on Wiki is old. So it's showing you. By the way, if you're watching and you agree with we need to get rid of this cancer of Israel, like, share, and sub. Help. Don't just watch and look at my beautiful face. Help. Fucking share this shit. Take 2 seconds. Click the share button and share it on Facebook. If you need to, share it with the heading, "This guy's crazy. This guy's just crazy." Dickhead Netanyahu faced political pressure to demonstrate flexibility, as 3 recent elections gave him only a plurality in a coalition government, and he faced criminal prosecution in 2021. How'd that work out? It didn't. Netanyahu is don't take that. Netanyahu is the bad guy. Just like how Trump was elected even though he was under indictment and a criminal and shit. Netanyahu is the exact same story. Whenever you want to know what's going to happen in the United States, just pay attention to Israel. They'll usually do it in Israel first, and then they'll do it here, and it's the exact same shit. But let's keep going. By the way, my comments have been shut off. I didn't do it. The system loves to shut my comments off, so you guys think I'm ignoring you. All of you real people. I know there's a lot of trolls probably still talking shit. And I know the comments are coming through on your end more than likely. But I can't see anything. And the reason they do that is to make you hate me. Make you think I'm ignoring you and I'm not paying attention and all that bullshit. But I would answer your questions and comments if I could see them. In 2019, the Trump administration reversed decades of American policy by declaring that the West Bank settlements did not violate international law, a decision that threatened the two-state solution that had long been seen as the key to lasting peace between Israel and the Palestinians. There absolutely should not be a two-state solution. Israel should not exist. Just because the Jays think that they should have their own homeland and blah, 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 that doesn't mean they should just get it on the backs of other people. It's not like it was an abandoned area that they just built up. This was a thriving, beautiful place. If you go look at the oldest videos you can of Palestine, you're going to see a surprisingly modern setting. I know most of us probably think that when you think about things like Palestine and just that area, you think of like the desert. Tents in the desert and camels walking around and shit, because that's what they tell us. You think of like Aladdin and shit. But it's not. And you can find some really, really powerful videos that show you Gaza pre-October 2023 and Gaza afterward. What they are doing there is just abhorrent. They're just so disgusting. They're just such disgusting, horrible people. The Trump administration's Middle East policy, crafted by presidential senator or senior advisor Jared Kushner. Gosh, that's weird. Gosh, that is so weird. Jared Kushner crafted the Middle East policy. This is a guy who Netanyahu, when Trump signed, so people don't realize, Trump signed the legislation So Kobe dies, right? Kobe dies on a Sunday. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that's all the news can talk about. The Wednesday is when one of the Trump impeachments was said to come to a close. So they had their news cycle ready already. But on Tuesday was when Trump signed the legislation saying that all colleges and universities had to have a pro-Israel curriculum and actively remove any BDS or anti-Israel groups or anything like that from the campuses at the risk of losing federal funding. This was signed into law, legislation. This was signed back when, 2018, 19, whenever Kobe died. I don't give a shit. It's interesting how that worked. That this legislation was signed, then it was sort of shelved and put off on the back burner until now. Until there was a desperate need and a response by the people, an organic response. We're supposed to believe that this generation is the worst generation. Gen Z, they're so lazy. They're so shitty. This is the worst generation. They're the first generation that has the balls to stand up to Israel. It's beautiful. Right? But to think that so when Trump signed that legislation, criminal Netanyahu was there. While Trump was signing it, Netanyahu had his right hand on Trump's left shoulder, standing over him with this big smile. But then they stand at the podium and do their little interview bullshit. And Netanyahu says, Trump is the greatest friend that the Israeli people in Israel have ever known. Then he looks over at Jared Kushner and says, Jared, I've known Jared since he was this big. Like he does this in front of his, does the blowjob thing. Since he was, I shouldn't say how long I've known Jared, but like you can see this. You can go find this for yourself. He literally acknowledges that he probably shouldn't be saying out loud how long the guy that's going to craft the Middle Eastern policy has been under his power. It's fucking insane. Crafted by presidential senior advisor. Trump's son-in-law is a senior advisor. Jared Kushner's wealth came from his father giving him an apartment building, a fucking, a big wig apartment building. His dad gave him that building. That's where all of his wealth comes from. He's not self-made. He's just it's just more nepotism. But what would qualify this fucking piece of shit son-in-law to be considered a senior advisor to the President of the United States? Does nobody see anything wrong with that? How does anybody just think, that's fucking normal? Especially if you're like, I'm an American, I'm a military person, I'm this, that, and the other. How do you not have a problem with that? Jared Kushner, released in January 2020, approved Netanyahu's plan to annex existing settlements. I mean, this is terrorism on the highest, most obvious level. Annexing you mean people live there and have their own beliefs and all that shit, and because you disgusting people want it, you're just going to go take it by force. Either kill the people, or if they're willing to leave, then you might not kill them. But I mean, the stories that come out about the Israelis and what they do, the raping, there's actual video that shows a Palestinian man being, he got captured. He's bent over this thing while Israeli soldiers come and stand in front with big shields so you can't see what's going on. And then another guy comes up. There's two or three guys holding the soldier down. Another guy comes up. I mean, it's far away, but you can see like you can tell he pulls his pants down, and then you can see him fucking moving. He's raping the guy. There are reports that Israel has trained dogs to rape humans. So they chain these men down with their arms and their legs chained and their face, and they get raped by dogs. This is documented. Like, I'm not making this. Go look it up. These are the sickest fucking people in the world. After Yusuf Otaiba, the UAE ambassador to the United States, wrote a June 2020 opinion piece warning that annexation would threaten better relations between Israel and the Arab world, Kushner saw an opportunity and stepped in to facilitate talks. To think that like anybody, any of these foreign dignitaries, why would they entertain Kushner? He is the president's son-in-law who never did shit, has no fucking background in anything, and he's having talks with foreign dignitaries? He's facilitating agreements and shit? What are you talking about? It just seems like it seems like I'm making it up. You know, I'm trying to demonize Israel, like they always say. If you open up the books on Israel, you demonize Israel. Well, if Israel was doing good shit, you could open up the books all day and you wouldn't be able to demonize them. If you open up the books on something and it demonizes it, it's because the thing is really fucking bad. After negotiations had reached an agreement, which again, they're not going to talk about any of that. They're just going to sort of, and then yada yada, things worked out. President Trump, dickhead bitch-ass Netanyahu, and Abu Dhabi's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed held a conference call immediately prior to a formal announcement. Let's see. This says agreement. Let's see if it actually gives us some information. On August 13, 2020, the UAE Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Anwar Gargash, announced the UAE's agreement to normalize relations with Israel, saying his country wanted to deal with the threats facing the two-state solution, specifically annexation of the Palestinian territories, and urging the Palestinians and Israelis to return to the negotiation table. Like, reading this in hindsight, it just makes it seem like a fucking joke. It's a joke. If everything hinged on Israel being nice, well, that sure hasn't happened. And if you believe anything that you're told, like no Israelis died on October 7th. No Israelis were taken hostage on October 7th. It's literally all just theater bullshit. It's all just fake theater bullshit. You can tell really easily just by looking at how is it possible that of the 250 plus hostages that were supposedly taken, only two, and mainly one guy, has been seen the entire time, including his kidnapping. You know what I mean? It just happens to work out. Those darn Palestinians just keep giving the same guy the phone so he can make videos talking about, oh, it's so bad here. You know, they keep us in a tunnel underground. It's about 40 feet long and 3 feet wide. They tie our arms and legs together and they put plastic bags over our heads. Oh, wait, no. That's what Israel does. But this is the bullshit narrative they give you because it's not real. They don't know how to make a narrative that sounds realistic because they can't. There isn't one. And if they base it off of what they do, they know it'll be too much. You know? But there's literally no proof that any Israelis died or were taken hostage on October 7th. The only proof you have is a list of names provided to you by the Israeli fucking military government. And why anyone would believe anything those fuckers say is just beyond me. Here, I'm going to take a quick break real quick from this story. Back in, I don't know, 2021, something like that, 2020 probably, there was a guy, supposedly, a story came out about a guy named Hai Shalin, Haishaulian or Lain, I don't know. A man said to be the number one protester in Israel when it came to masks and vacations and you know, green pass and all that shit. Like he was the number one thorn in the side, anti-COVID guy, thorn in the side for Israel. He was supposedly arrested at a no mask rally where him and a bunch of other people were supposedly out protesting, protesting wearing masks, right? So a bunch of people were all around him, also not wearing masks, and pushing the germs out of their mouth. You know, the germs come flying out, right? The police arrested him on 2 days later. He's taken from the police station to the hospital where he has like super duper ultra ultimate COVID because 7 days later, for some reason, he's allowed access to a phone. Like he's a prisoner who is in the hospital being treated for COVID, but I guess he somehow has access to a phone and internet. And he puts out a statement saying that he is too sick to talk or respond, but he believes that with God's help, in 2 or 3 weeks, he should have this beat. But if he does end up dying, it's because the police poisoned him. He said the police poisoned him. And you know, wild, right? So that's 7 days later. The next day, the announcement comes that he has died. The day after, he releases the statement saying he thinks he's going to be all right. He just can't talk to anyone or respond or prove that he exists. He dies. There's no outcry. There's no outrage. None of this is the number one protester in Israel, and nobody is coming out demanding an investigation, demanding people look into his claims that the cops poisoned him, that the fact that he was fine 10 days earlier and now he's suddenly dead from COVID. Like nobody gets that kind of COVID. Nobody's fine and then 10 days later they're dead from COVID. That's just not a thing. But that's what they tell us about this guy. And nobody fucking cared. Nobody looked, none of his friends, none of his family was like, hey, we need an investigation. This, that, no. So me being the crazy conspiracy theorist that I am, I say, hey, I wonder, because I know Israel likes to put out fake fucking stories. This guy is the number one protester, right? The number one anti-COVID guy. There should be like a lot of him prior to this, right? There should be stories about him. He should have a social media footprint. But just like Thomas Matthew Crooks, or Matthew Thomas Crooks, whatever his fucking name was, the 20-something-year-old guy that they said shot Trump, he has zero social media footprint. Hai Shalin, the biggest protester in the region and the biggest thorn in the side, they kept saying, no Facebook, no Twitter, no YouTube, no nothing, no videos, no proof that this guy ever exists. Not to mention, no one else from that no mask rally checked themselves into the hospital 2 days later and died 8 days later or any time later from super COVID. It was basically just a fake story. It was a story to show you that if you're a big enough thorn in the side that they'll just kidnap you, then you could even escape or get an opportunity to say that you were poisoned or whatever. And even if you die, no one will do shit about it. It was an assault. It was an attack on us. And it proved that Israel is willing to do anything. They don't give a shit. They'll flat out lie if they need to. They'll create narratives just to push what they want pushed. Thomas Matthew Crooks is this 20-year-old who has zero social media footprint. How's that make sense? When it comes to the Trump shooting, I only have one question. I mean, I have lots of questions, but there's one main question that never gets answered. Where are all the live videos and cell phone videos, all the videos and the live feeds from the Trump shooting? Shouldn't there have been, well, Trump said there were thousands and thousands of people there. Shouldn't there be hundreds, if not thousands of people that were either recording or live when that happened? Where are all the videos at? I've only seen videos of people that were supposedly kind of far away. And you could hear the shots in the background and then people start running. I mean, there was a woman right behind Trump to his left who had a big white iPhone, was sitting there recording the whole time. Because, you know, the president gets shot right in front of you and you don't go run away not knowing whether there's another shot coming or anything. You just sit there and watch, right? That's what she did. She sat there and watched and filmed it. Where's her video? Think about that shit, man. Where are all the cell phone videos and live feeds? When you don't think that the system will give you fake narratives just to you know, enforce what they believe or sway you or manipulate you, think about High Shaline. Think about how they literally created a character, an entire narrative, even had family members that were interviewed after the fact. Well, one family member. Just to push a narrative. The Israelis do nothing but lie. They don't give a shit. And the thing that most of you don't understand is the main book in Judaism is the Talmud. It's not the Torah like they tell us it is. It's the Talmud. And, you know, first rule in the Talmud is don't tell Goyim about the Talmud. You know, it literally says that they're required to lie to us. If the Goyim knew our true intentions, then they would rise up and destroy us. The Talmud says shit like that. They're required to lie to us. They don't want us because they're at least smart enough to know how horrible they are and that Goyim aren't wired like they are. You know, the Vietnam War really showed them that, right? They thought if they showed us the most atrocious things on TV, that we would be like, yeah, more blood. We're, you know, because that's how they are. They're bloodthirsty, just disgusting animals. But that's not who we are. And we showed that. When they showed all that footage on, you know, on the news about Vietnam and shit, it had the opposite effect. Doesn't matter who it is. Goyim saw that other Goyim were being killed and you know, the little girl running down the street with her skin falling off. She's naked and running down the street with her skin falling off. We saw those photos and those videos and we were like, oh my God, stop it. Because we're not like them. We're not bloodthirsty, you know, blood libel, piece of shit, disgusting people. And they're continuously, having to learn that and having to adjust because, they put shit out there thinking that we think like them. We don't. We're different. We haven't been raised in that cult our whole lives. And that cult is the problem. It's not Israel. It's not Zionism. It's not free Palestine. These are just the things that they allow us to say. The true rally cry is to end Jayism, end the cult. It's a horrible cult. And when you know what they're willing to do to their own children, the most important mitzvah, the most important ritual that they have, or among the most important, equal to anything else that they do, is the circumcision ritual. That is some disgusting shit. Especially when you look at with them, the bris is the party. The circumcision is called Brit Milah. And the Metitza Bepa is the oral suction that takes place right after Brit Milah, right after the circumcision. The moil then sucks on it. Do you understand that not only do they do that to their own children, they have fucking parties where the relatives and the most important people to the family stand around and watch this thing take place? They watch as this basically stranger who, a moil's only job is circumcision. So unless you have multiple children, you're not going to have many dealings with the moil. They watch as this man mutilates and then violates their child. Do you understand how fucking awful that is? And when you understand that that's what they do to their own, what do you think the limits are for what they do to us? If they do that to their own out of the most important thing that they do, then what are they willing to do to enemies? It's fucking disgusting. It's disgusting, you guys. Again, sorry if I'm not responding to your comments. They've shut the comments off from my perspective. I'm sure you can still see them. I can't. But if you agree with what I'm saying and you're tired and you're tired of and disgusted by this horrible cult, like the video, share the video, sub, do what you can to help. Literally take 2 seconds and click share, and then Facebook icon will pop up. Share it on Facebook. Share it with the comment, "This guy's crazy. Somebody come tell him why." Whatever you have to do to get people to fucking engage this conversation, do it. I would love to hear from people that think I'm wrong. I would love it. Anyway, back to the story. Two-state solution, specifically annexation of the Palestinian territories and urging the Palestinians and the Israelis to return to the negotiation table. He indicated that he did not think there would be any embassy in Jerusalem until after the final agreement between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Didn't work out so well. According to Trump and Netanyahu, Israel and the United Arab Emirates will fully normalize the diplomatic relations. They will exchange embassies and ambassadors and begin cooperation across the board and on a broad range of areas, including tourism, education, healthcare, trade, and security. Funny how it's only the U.S. and Israel that's announcing this. And no representatives from the UAE were there for this. Funny how that works. A joint statement issued by Trump, dickhead douchebag Netanyahu, and Zaid read, "This historic diplomatic breakthrough will advance peace in the Middle East region and is a testament to the bold diplomacy and vision of the three leaders and the courage of the United Arab Emirates and Israel to chart a new path that will unlock the great potential in the region." Yeah, definitely. It's definitely led to peace, hasn't it? Like, this is just horrendous. The UAE said it would continue to support the Palestinian people and that the agreement would maintain the prospect of a two-state solution between Israel and Palestine. Yeah, that worked out well. Look, even if you believe that Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, they didn't. Israel attacked Israel. It was all just a fucking orchestrated fake, and you honestly believe that somehow all of these Hamas members were flying in on hang gliders and shit? They were using hang gliders and motorcycles to break through the defense of one of the most heavily defended, heavily surveilled areas in the region, let alone the world maybe, but definitely in the region. It was somehow it all failed because of Hamas and their motorcycles and hang gliders, paragliders. How do you kidnap somebody on a hang glider? What do you tell them to grab onto it and be like, all right, we have to run really fast so this thing will lift back up and we can fly back to where we're going? There's no footage of it. One of the most heavily surveilled areas in the world, and there's no footage of it. Israel claims Hamas launched 5,000 rockets in the first 20 minutes. That's 4 rockets per second for 20 minutes straight. Yet there's no footage of it. Because it all happened so fast. It all happened too fast for the cameras to catch it. Where the fuck did Hamas, how much do rockets cost? More importantly, how much do rocket launchers cost? How many rocket launchers would you need to be able to facilitate 4 rockets per second for 20 minutes? It seems like a pretty heavy duty deal, especially in an area that's completely blockaded by Israel. They won't even let lumber come through so they can rebuild because they say that lumber could then be used to hurt Israel somehow. Because, they got a bunch of A-teams over there. But somehow Hamas was able to sneak in 5,000 rockets and as many rocket launchers as it takes to launch 5,000 rockets in 20 minutes. And Israel, again, they just failed. We don't even know how that happened. What happens in all of those cases, like at this point, anyone stupid enough to launch artillery into Israeli airspace, what sense does that make? Who would do that from a strategic point of view? Apparently, the Iron Dome will shoot down anything that comes close. And apparently, the only way that people ever attack Israel is to shoot up into the airspace. Never direct shots at anything, just way up into the sky so that the Iron Dome can shoot them down. Literally, none of the rockets ever get through. No damage is ever caused unless Israel needs a false flag sort of situation. But even now, they don't even bother with saying that there was damage. They'll just say that they were rockets fired. And when the rockets get fired into the agreed upon coordinates so that the Iron Dome has its 99% efficiency and that 1% are rockets that they scanned and figured they wouldn't hit anything, so they let them go. There's only one way that happens, and that's if it's all coordinated. But to think that anybody will, any of these poor Palestinian farmers and peasants and shit, somehow have the capital laying around to be able to afford one of these $10,000, $20,000 rockets, however much they cost. It's many, many thousands of dollars. And then whatever rocket launcher is necessary. They somehow are able to afford these things, and instead of using that wisely, they decide to launch a rocket into Israeli airspace that will be shut down, and then Israel will immediately respond like they had this plan to hit this area, and they only needed some sort of catalyst to do it. Because almost immediately, Israel responds 10, 20, 100-fold. One rocket gets launched. They then launch and hit 10 different targets on the ground. Airstrikes. It's all just manufactured bullshit. That's why there's never any investigation. That's why the coverage is minimal. I mean, are you telling me that I'm the only one that asks these questions? There's no other really smart fucking political advisors or strategists or anything like that bother to ask, where the fuck would Hamas have gotten 5,000 rockets and then the rocket launchers necessary to do that? It's just asinine, right? It's an insult to our Goyim intelligence to keep presenting us with these fucking bullshit narratives and then, expecting us to just believe it because that's what they do. We're stupid Goyim. We're supposed to believe what they want us to believe and do as we're told to do. The last thing they ever want is us to be unified, educated, and confident. That's why everything they tell you is death, doom, and gloom. That's why the religion you believe in doesn't encourage you to be proud of yourself. It tells you that if you're an athlete, right, and you've been this athlete your whole life, you've eaten the right meals, you haven't gotten to enjoy bacon and whatever other cake and all kinds of stupid shit because you have a specific diet, you go to bed early, you wake up, you train, you don't go on to dances, you don't go out with your friends, you've just been solely working towards this gold medal. You finally get to the Olympics or whatever, and you're pit up against the fastest fucking people in the world who have all done the same thing. Not one of them just sits around all day and prays, and then God just makes them faster than everyone else. But every single one of them believes that they have been, favorited by God for whatever the fuck reason. I don't know. But every time you see somebody win, they're immediately interviewed and, well, first of all glory be to God. Without God, none of this is possible. God picked me to beat all these other people. Because you never see somebody that wins the event and says, hey, listen, I just want to say something. All these people watching, I hope you understand the sacrifices and the hard work that not only myself, but my family and everyone I know had to make to get me here. All of the fun things that I missed out on. All of all of the fundraisers and all the money and all the late nights and early mornings and everything that everybody put into me being right here. And today, I just happen to work harder than I just happen to have it my way. Today's my day, and I won because I ran harder and faster than anyone else. Thanks to all of my hard work and my dedication. You never hear anybody say shit like that. As a matter of fact, in just about any situation, if I sat here and I said, you guys need to watch this other guy's video. This other guy's video is great. He's really articulate. He doesn't go, all the time. He's not bad on the eyes. But he knows what the fuck he's talking about. He's really well educated on this particular thing. And I just think he's great. I think he's great at what he does, and I think he's right. If I said that, other than the insecure guys that would make the gay jokes, nobody would really fucking bat an eye at it. Oh, yeah, well, I got to check this guy out. But if I say those same things about myself, well, I'm really fucking smart, and I've looked into every angle I can find. I've actually spent most of my time looking at the information they want us to know so I can prove myself wrong. I've been trying to prove myself wrong. But I can't, because I'm smart, I'm articulate, I see what's going on, and I'm a good person who you know, stands up for what's right. Everybody's going to have a problem with that. Oh, man, this guy's so arrogant. This guy's so fool. He said he's good at stuff. Funny, though, at the same time, if I made videos where I just posted the phone up on the side and then, you know, I filmed myself practicing basketball every day. And for years, you can watch me go from, you know, being able to dribble with my right hand okay to I can dribble with both hands, between my legs, around my back. I'm really good at all the dribbling drills. You know, I hit 9 out of 10 shots. I can fucking jump and hit the backboard and shit. I can dunk if I want. Like, if I showed you videos like that, and then I say, look, I'm better than most of you watching me at basketball. And anybody that wants to come test it, you can, but I'm going to destroy you. Most people aren't going to be like, oh, that's crazy. Look what an arrogant asshole he is. If I say I'm smarter than you in this regard, oh boy, are you going to get upset. You've literally watched me training. You've watched me learn and look, and there's a long history of videos of me reading all these different things and trying to figure this shit out. And yet if I sit here and I say I'm smarter than you, I know more about this particular thing than you do, you're going to get all butthurt. Because we've been programmed to self-police by them in a way that prevents us from reaching our true potential and exposing them for who they are. As long as we're all, you know, hating each other and insecure and not willing to, you know, everybody should know what they're good at. You know, most of you are probably better than most people at one or two things. You should be proud of those things. You shouldn't be like, you know, humble about it. I love how most people use humble wrong. I'm humbled by this tremendous applause and recognition for the work that I do. It's a truly humbling experience. No, it's not. It's the opposite. You don't feel small because you're being recognized, insignificant because you're being recognized. But this is, you know, it's just more shit. We're programmed to hate each other. We're programmed to hate ourselves. You know, most of you walk around thinking you're depressed. You're not depressed. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just pissed off. You're pissed off at the way the world works. That you were told that as long as you prayed, you gave your money to Jesus every week, you did the right things, that life would be good for you. And it's not. You watch as your tax dollars are given to Israel to commit genocide. You drive down these roads that are shitty as fuck. Most of us, doesn't matter how big your house is, you're barely fucking hanging on. We're all a few paychecks away from missing paychecks away from being on the streets. Your government fucking shits all over you. You know, during COVID, your religion shut its doors. Instead of the churches being a place of refuge for people, they shut their doors. I used to watch the 700 Club, and I always thought it was funny that you know, Gordon and whatever the other broad's name is, and think Pat Robinson, that they can command God, they can voodoo a message from people out watching them on TV in a delayed or you know, pre-taped episode. They can sense your need and command Jesus to touch and fix your knee. Yet they didn't come out and say, listen, I know we normally, you know, focus on individuals for their individual things and try to help people and command Jesus to fix people's shit. We're going to stop doing that as individuals, and we're just going to say, hey, Jesus, touch fucking COVID the fuck out of here. Funny how they never did that one, huh? Because it's all bullshit. It's all just bullshit that these fucking Jays put on us to keep us in this docile, insecure, feeble position, believing that again, you Christians believe that a completely different religion is your Christian God's chosen people. It's embarrassing. It's stupid. The people that killed your superhero, killed your Jesus, killed your God's only son, those are the chosen people. Why do you think you believe such insanity when you step back and you look at it for what it truly is? Why aren't you one of God's chosen people? Why wouldn't you say, oh, wait, there's a higher level to this? Oh, I'm going to be the higher level. I want to be the favorite. I want to be the chosen. I don't want to be the other. Because if you're not chosen, then what are you? You're just the other. The UAE said it would continue to support the Palestinians, blah, blah, blah. Despite the agreement, however, douchebag Netanyahu stated that Israel's sovereignty claim to the Jordan Valley was still on the agenda and only frozen for the time being. They literally say the shit to you. Oh yeah, we're only stopping doing the bad stuff so that we can get what we want. So you'll sign whatever we want you to sign. The people got mad enough that we had to, we're going to do a ceasefire. We're going to tell the people that we're doing a ceasefire. The entire ceasefire, Israel was killing people. And that only applies to the whole concept of a ceasefire only applies to the military. That doesn't affect the fucking animals, the insanity, the fucking psychopaths that are the settlers. The settlers are psychopathic monsters. They have a thing called a rampage, a settler rampage. That's when the settlers get mad about something. So they form a big long line and they walk together. And as they walk, anything they come across, they destroy it. Anything that's not them, they destroy it. They light cars and buildings on fire. They beat people up. They break shit. And they get away with it because right behind them is the IDF with their machine guns, with their body armor, and with their ability to arrest or shoot anyone who fights back. The Israelis are only tough when there's a fucking IDF soldier behind them. Or when it's a black man, an old black man in a wheelchair. How many of you guys saw that video? The crazy ass Jays tip over a black guy in a fucking wheelchair, an old black guy in a wheelchair. They tip him over after yelling at him and getting into an argument with him because they didn't like his dogs. Can you imagine if some young black guys in full thug gear, because these Jays were in their full goofy ass white shirt, black pants, silly yarmulke, goofy fucking sideburns and shit. Can you imagine if some black guys in extra large jersey with their pants sagging down and gold chains and gold teefuses, and you gotta have braids nowadays, long braids. If there was video of them pushing over an old J, knocking an old J man out of a wheelchair. You know, the media, the system tells us that so basically the Jays have this like hotline established, right? where they can call and report hate crimes. A couple of years ago, the news actually reported on a hate crime where an old J-man was being harassed by some kids and they knocked his hat off. And that was called a hate crime. A hate crime because they knocked his hat off. Imagine if you saw some 20-something black men knock an old J-man out of a wheelchair. Can you imagine the fucking media outrage, the national outrage, the racism that would come from it? See, this is what black people, this is what we always say about black people. See, they're just thugs. It would be everywhere. You wouldn't have happened upon the story if you happen to have the right, network, the right, affiliations through your page like I do. There's no mainstream fucking media outrage over it. It's just insanity. It really is insanity. And yet, business as usual. How many of you know about the dancing Israelis? Group of 5 men who were arrested on 9/11 filming the tower collapses. The towers being hit and the towers collapsing. They were there. They were already set up to witness the first tower. They failed lie detector tests. The lie detector tests to deny whether they had knowledge that this was going to happen, and they were sent to film it. They failed lie detector tests. And then they were shipped off because the J that was in charge was like, oh, well, we can't do anything about this. These guys are fine. Then they went on Israeli TV and bragged about it. Dancing Israelis. Look it up. You're going to find the Snopes article first, of course, because the Google machine will push Snopes on you. And Snopes will tell you it's not entirely true. If Snopes is acknowledging that it's not entirely true or entirely false, then you know it's fucking true. They just can't spin it any better. The dancing Israelis should be something everybody talks about. They clearly had knowledge of they were there before the first tower was hit, filming it. They were filming the shit. How can you deny having and not only were they filming it, they were seen high-fiving and celebrating after the first 2 plane hits, and then I think they were there until the first tower fell, maybe. Or maybe they got arrested before the towers actually fell. I can't remember. Sorry, I don't know everything. I know I think I do, but I don't. Why are the dancing Israelis, the dancing Israelis are a provable thing. It happened. Yet the passport, the hijackers, the 19 hijackers or whatever it was, and the magical passports that the indestructible passports, the 19 hijackers who weren't seen on any film, who there's no voice recordings of, there's none of it. And actually the analysis of the recordings that they do have, because in 2 separate planes, they accidentally hit the communication button. They both accidentally hit the communication button. So there's these little snippets, and those little snippets, when analyzed, show Israeli accents. There are countless videos of Israelis bragging about 9/11. Yes, we did 9/11. Celebrate the best thing that happened. Blah blah blah. It's bullshit. It's just what they do. Larry Silverstein is just a disgusting human being. The whole thing is such, 9/11 is one of the most obvious bunches of shit that we've ever seen or ever been shown. Because at the end of the day, the amount of people that can report that they either saw and heard an airplane hit the towers is like one person. Everybody else says they either saw, lots and lots of people say there was no plane. The shit just exploded. There are endless videos of people being interviewed on that day, saying, no, there was no plane, it was bomb. It blew up. And the reality is, the shot that we all saw, the hard cam that we all saw, because it was, even though it was said to be multiple different agencies, they all had the same camera feed. Some just zoomed in a little bit more. Some maybe moved the footage down to the side a little bit more. Some tinted it a little differently. But it's literally all the same footage. You see the plane, the nose of the plane go through the building completely intact. Then the screen goes black for a second. And then it comes back and it shows the explosion. It's as unbelievable and not real as it can possibly be. There's no way the aluminum plane, the nose of the plane goes through the building undamaged. Comes out the other side, and then all three fucking cameras have the same fucking malfunction and go black for a second. Because they weren't good at it. They should have waited till they switched over to digital. This was still analog technology. We went to digital like very shortly after that. But like this is just a common sense thing. The nose of the plane could never make it through the steel and concrete that was that building. The reality is the plane should have hit and sort of bounced off, caused some damage, but nothing even close to what happened. It's foolish. The idea of the nose going through the building is just fool. It's stupid. What it is it's a layering mistake. They're doing something on quote live TV, so they had to layer a couple of images. They had the still shot of the building. And then they had to layer in the image of the plane coming in. And they just weren't good at it yet. And they fucked up. And there's just, I don't care what you believe. You can look at every other video, every other angle. The nose doesn't go through the building. There's not another video that shows you the nose penetrating through the building. But that live shot, it definitely did. Zaid tweeted that the UAE and Israel also agreed to cooperation and setting up a roadmap towards establishing a bilateral relationship. The treaty was signed on September 15th, 2020. The treaty recognizes each state's sovereignty. Why are these considered states? Obliges the two states to exchange ambassadors and conclude bilateral agreements on several topics, including visa agreements, and will enter into force upon ratification. The agreement was ratified by the Israeli government on October 12th and was ratified by the Knesset on October 15th. Reactions. Israel said there was no change, or Netanyahu, douchebag bitch ass, said there was no change to his plans to annex part of the West Bank, which was sort of like the condition of the treaty, right? that they continue to establish the relations to form the two-state solution. Well, Netanyahu's going, no, we're not going to do that. I mean, that's literally what's been happening this whole time. Almost immediately after October 7th, supposedly, Hamas, on whatever Facebook page they, I guess, have, or whatever it is, said that they would release all 250 plus hostages, never had the actual number, just like it's around 1,100 people that were killed in Israel on October 7th. Not around 1,100 Israelis, but around 1,100 people killed in Israel. And the people in Israel never refer to themselves as the people in Israel. It's just, it's everywhere how they do this. But you know, they would give you actual numbers if they could. And I don't remember what my point was. You annex parts of the West Bank if it was approved by the U.S. Yeah, I'm sure he cares. But added they were on temporary hold while the agreements are being signed. Before the agreement, the plan was to annex 30% of the West Bank. The plan to annex 30% of the West Bank were already on hold due to a majority of Israelis and the government coalition partner, Benny Gantz, rejecting the plan. 30% is not enough. That's why they rejected it. Hundreds of thousands of Israeli settlers live in the areas, in addition to the Palestinians, which were under Israeli control in practice. Oh yeah, that was the point. Immediately after October 7th, Hamas said that they would give up all the hostages if the Israelis just stopped bombing them. And Israel, Netanyahu and friends, Smotrich and Ben Gvir and Avi Moaz and all these other guys, they said no. They actually said, oh, you want us to stop bombing? We're going to bomb even more now. How were they bombing so indiscriminately if there were so many hostages supposedly in the area? Gantz thanked Trump, Netanyahu, and Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan for making the peace deal happen, saying it showed an alliance between Middle Eastern nations that wanted stability and mutual cooperation. It also showed Israel's eternal desire for peace with neighboring countries, per him, while also enhancing Israel's image on the world stage and creating a better future for the region. Sure did. Netanyahu, when questioned by reporters, admitted to keeping the negotiations with the UAE secret from Blue and White due to the United States requesting him to do so. Wow, that's weird. Why would the U.S. request that? Like, I just don't understand how anybody hears, like, I'm reading the official narrative, and you don't think it's bullshit, especially with the hindsight we have now? Foreign Minister Gabi Ashkenazi, her last name is Ashkenazi, said the deal would pave the way for peace agreements with other nations and welcome the suspension of the unilateral annexation. Yesh Atid's chairman, Yair Lapid, former prime minister. Funny how they leave that out all the time. This dude was a prime minister. Just before Netanyahu took over, the previous prime minister that was Naftali Bennett. The difference between Naftali Bennett and Netanyahu was that Netanyahu believed that all Israelis at 18 should serve the military and therefore become reservists. Be willing to be called back anytime. Naftali Bennett believed that the Americans should be the ones that are doing all of Israel's dirty work, and that Israelis should just be allowed to have their lives and be Israeli and go on their pilgrimages and shit like that. They shouldn't have to fight. That's what we're for. And he actually supposedly won an election, and then somewheres around like April or April, May, something like that, of 2022, he just decides to step down. And instead of there being like an election or some shit, Yair Lapid was just put in his place. He was just made the prime minister. And then in November, when they had their bullshit election, where they put the Netanyahu coalition in charge in an indefinite way, Netanyahu can't be voted out. He's basically a dictator at this point. They just don't say it. While you were distracted by Kanye, because that's at the like a day before or a couple days before this bullshit coalition was put in place, Kanye came out and said what he said. And of course, none of you would know about what Kanye said, just like how Kanye's saying all kinds of shit now, talking all kinds of shit about Israel and the Jays now. You don't hear anything about it because the media didn't want you to know. The only reason you knew about what Kanye said, Kyrie's fucking tweet, anything along those lines is because the J media told everybody that's what you need to focus on. The Goyim need to focus on the fact that you have somebody super famous and powerful like Kanye saying, making a threat, I'm going to go DEFCON 3 on the Jays. Even if it's a nonsense bullshit threat like DEFCON 3, whatever the fuck that means. So he threatened him. He said that he's allowed to say whatever he wants. He's Semitic, so, he can say anti-Semitic stuff. And he exposed the conspiracy. He said that everyone in the entertainment industry has Jays in their contracts and Jays behind the scenes that make money off of them. He provided the three examples: the threat, the belief in what you can say, and the exposure. And they made an example out of him because they knew what they were fixing to do. They knew they were going to do this whole false flag, then genocide thing. And they needed to remind us that we're not allowed to make threats. We're not allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to expose the truth. Look what they did to Kanye. That guy lost $2 billion overnight. He was a billionaire. And that's what they could do to him. What do you think they could do to you? You're not a billionaire, right? You're not even a millionaire. You're somebody barely getting by. What do you think they can do to you? Why isn't this working? Oh, that's why. What is going on here? Okay. There we go. Shit wasn't charging this whole time, surprisingly. But they showed you that during what's coming up next, you're not allowed to say anything. Look what we did to the billionaire. Imagine what we'll do to you. That's what all that was for. Well, there's a lot more reading to do here, and I'm not going to do it. Not today. Wow. A lot of reactions. Aftermath. I'll read the aftermath. An EIAI spokesman announced on August 28th. What? Oh. You know what? I'm not going to read this today. On August 20th, on August 16th, 2020, Israel and the UAE inaugurated direct telephone service. The Emirati company Apex National Investment and Israel's Terra Group signed an agreement to partner in research on COVID-19, making it the first business deal signed between companies of the two nations since normalization of ties. Normalization. Not one thing actually gives me the definition of what normalization means. The director of the Mossad, Yossi Cohen, arrived in the UAE on August 18th to discuss security cooperation, regional developments, as well as issues that concerned both countries with the National Security Advisor Tanoun bin Zayed Al Nahyan. This marked the first visit of an Israeli official since the announcement of the deal. The UAE formally ended its boycott of Israel on August 29th. On August 17th, dickhead douchebag Prime Minister Netanyahu said that Israel was working to start direct flights to the UAE using Saudi Arabia's airspace. Netanyahu's office and other officials later denied reports of approving the U.S. sales of F-35 warplanes to the UAE following the deal. Do you guys hear this? They later denied reports of approving the U.S. sales of F-35 warplanes to the UAE following the deal. Who the fuck are they to approve anything we do? That actually brings us to another point. So, how many of you know what a memorandum of understanding is? Memorandum of understanding is legal shit that's because it's not a treaty or legislation per se. It's allowed to be kept under the surface so the goyim don't get to know what it is. It's binding. It's legally binding shit. But because of the designation of a memorandum of understanding, then we don't have to get any understanding, you know. It's official, but it's not official. It's this weird little loophole that they have. So there's a memorandum of understanding that says Israel is to have the greatest military in the region, a quantifiable or quantitative, I can't remember which Q word, I think it's quantitative military advantage in the region. They're supposed to have the best military. And anything that messes with that or offsets it in any way needs to be rectified by the United States. So, we're talking about the UAE deal here, but when it was Bahrain, the United States, to get Bahrain to sign a normalization deal with Israel, basically, the normalization deals work out that Israel gets all of the advantage. They get to go where they want to go. They get all the special treatment. Whoever signs with Israel gets paid very well by the United States taxpayer, right? We end up giving them all sorts of things, forgiving debt, releasing hostages, whatever it may be. We give in to whatever the demands are so that Bahrain will play nice with Israel. Part of the deal was that Bahrain, in fact, did get F-35 fighter jets from the United States, which cost like $50 million or some shit. Maybe more, and $100 million, I don't fucking know. But I don't know the exact number, but let's just say Bahrain gets 20 F-35 fighter jets to play nice with Israel. Because of the memorandum of understanding that says Israel is to have the qualitative, I don't remember, military advantage in the region, if we give Bahrain 20 F-35 fighter jets to play nice with Israel, we have to then give Israel 35 F-35 fighter jets to offset what was given to Bahrain. That's what that's like the backbone of these normalization deals is these memorandums of understanding. Like, these are terms that I never heard in my life. I never heard of a memorandum of understanding until I started looking into Israel. I never heard of the qualitative military advantage until I never heard of a normalization deal ever being signed with anyone else. These are new terms. And I've been a history sort of buff for a long time. Normalization deals, memorandums of understanding. You would think these things would be like commonplace. Nope. They only seem to exist for Israel. And like I say, Israel gets all of the benefit from the deal, the travel thing. The other country gets all of the, gets whatever demands they require. And the United States gets fuck all out of all of it. We just pay for it. We just facilitate it. So not only do we at the very least give Israel $3.8 billion a year cash money, one lump sum paycheck. Most big deals like that where we give money, they get money in spurts. They get it throughout the year, quarterly or whatever it is. Every year Israel gets its $3.8 billion given to them, no questions asked. But we're also required to pay whatever extra shit comes with the normalization deals that these countries signed to play nice with Israel. So it might be $3.8 billion cash, but then there's also all the grants that are set aside. So every time you hear stories about Israel buying $16 million in weapons from the United States, well, they're buying it, but United States grants are what's paying for it. So we're basically giving them the shit for free. And it's just this narrative that's given to us to make us think we're not just giving them shit for free. The funniest thing is, the $3.8 billion a year, that $38 billion over 10 years, that's another memorandum of understanding that's signed every 10 years. Whatever president is in charge signs it. Funny thing is, though, the last one was signed, the $38 billion a year one was signed by Obama. It was, they had been signed on the 6th, whatever the 6th year was, in previous history. So 2006, 2016, so on, so on. But with Obama, even though the memorandum of understanding ran out in 2016, his didn't officially take effect until 2018 for some reason, which is just asinine, because to think that there was some legislation that Obama signed into existence that Trump didn't overhaul, Trump didn't do anything about it, Trump just went along with the program, doesn't make much sense, right? And it's kind of true, but it's kind of not, because the memorandum of understanding that Obama put out, the news says that in order to get that $3.8 billion a year free cash money, Netanyahu had to give up a couple of concessions. They called them concessions. And the two concessions were that they weren't allowed to use that money to develop their own weapons and had to use that money to buy weapons from us. Because, the dumb goyim fucking American public, we can't just show that we're giving them all this fucking weaponry. We have to have the illusion that you're buying it. You're using the money we give you to buy weapons from us. It's just so fucking stupid. It reminds me of when, your kids are little and you take them to the store and you give them some money and be like, all right, go buy your mom a gift. And they and it's like the kids bought you this. The kids didn't buy that. Parents bought that shit. But it's that sort of dumbass, childish mentality that they put on us. But by the time the memorandum of understanding went fully into effect in 2018, it had been ratified a little bit. In that, the first concession was that they had to buy weapons. The second concession was they weren't allowed to ask for any more money until this one ran out. In 2018, when it went into effect, those two concessions were removed and replaced with the United States will leave a cache of weapons in Israel for emergency purposes. However, if Israel ever needs it, they can have access to it, and then we'll just keep resupplying it. So now, We still give them the money, but now they don't have to use it to buy weapons. We're just giving them the money outright now. There's no stipulations involved. These are called memorandums of understanding, and most of you know nothing about it on purpose. You're not supposed to know about this shit. Don't you think you should, though? Isn't it weird? Obviously, I can't see the comments. If you're wondering why. Anyway, so they denied the sale of they denied reports of approving the United States' sale of why does Israel get to approve or deny anything we do? Imagine that in some other form. Imagine if Mexico denied United States ability to give another country this or that. It just wouldn't. Imagine if it was, did they get the approval from the UAE to do we know about any approval given by the UAE? Does that even matter? Does the UAE get to give approval on something, or that part doesn't matter? Only thing that matters is what Israel does. Emirati Foreign Minister Anwar Gargash said in an interview with the Atlantic Coast Council that the peace deal should remove any obstructions in acquiring the jets, though any sale would take years to negotiate and deliver, and the UAE had not made a new request for them after the deal. An AI spokesman announced on August 28th that the company will operate EIAI 971, the first ever commercial flight between Israel and the UAE, flying from Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion Airport towards Abu Dhabi. Saudi Arabia allowed use of its airspace for the airplane to fly directly towards the UAE and landed at Abu Dhabi International Airport. Do you know why? So when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, the only time in history I've ever heard any country requesting, demanding, upset by the fact they didn't get Israeli support in whatever their conflict was. Have you ever heard of anybody expecting to get support from Israel from something? It's unheard of. However, if you look at Ukraine, that's where most of these Semitic Jays, these Semitic Israelis, a lot of them come from places like Ukraine, Poland. They're not Semitic people at all. They're invaders. But Ukraine has one of the largest Jay populations in the region, especially in places like Kiev. Did you guys know the Klitschko brothers were Jay? I didn't. That shit was hidden from us. But it's the reason why Ukraine sort of expected Israel's support. But the reason they didn't openly get it is because Russia controls the Syrian airspace. And Israel wanted to be able to continue doing their random fucking airstrikes on what they say are Iranian-backed targets in Syria. And if they made enemies with Russia, then they wouldn't be allowed to fly in Syrian airspace and then attack civilian targets claiming that those are Iranians or Iranian-backed bullshits. But that's the reason why you didn't see Israel get more involved, because they wanted to still be able to kill people in Syria. It's fucking nuts. The flight carried a delegation of American and Israeli officials, which included Jared Kushner, Robert C. O'Brien, and Israeli National Security Advisor Meir Ben Shabbat. Man, too bad that plane didn't get hit, huh? The airplane had the word peace painted in Hebrew Arabic, and English languages painted above its cockpit window and received a red carpet welcome. Aww, isn't that beautiful? Do you guys know that Hebrew is the youngest language on the planet? Hebrew was invented, was revitalized, was invented in the late 1800s, early 1900s by a guy called Eliezer Ben Yehuda. And his son is considered the first Hebrew-speaking person since the language went away all those years. It's just, obviously it didn't exist. Obviously it's just bullshit. All the ancient Hebrew bullshit is just bullshit. If the language had to be invented again, and it was invented by basically holding a mirror up to Arabic, and then, all they are mirrored characters of Arabic shit. Quote, based off of Arabic and other other languages. This guy just creates Hebrew. The youngest language on the planet is Hebrew. Did you guys know that? No. Hold this. Talk about how great it is.
Laughing and giggling and having a great time, and I completely forgot that I was older. I just felt like one of the girls, and we had a wonderful time. And then I got into my car and caught a glimpse of myself, and I almost had a heart attack. This old woman was in the mirror. I didn't even recognize her.
You guys gotta hear this.
Who was it?
This is
I'd kill to be 20 again. Oh, I would kill to be 40 again. I had the shock of my life today. I was in the teacher's lounge talking to a group of girls in their 20s. Oh, they were so pretty. At that age, you don't even have to be pretty, and you're pretty. Anyway, we were laughing and giggling and having a great time, and I completely forgot that I was older. I just felt like one of the girls, and we had a wonderful time. And then I got into my car and caught a glimpse of myself, and I almost had a heart attack.
Hold on.
This old woman was in the mirror. I didn't even recognize her. Who was it? It was me.
That's what was that? Okay.
If you all know the show, then you all know. Shit's hilarious.
Both Saudi Arabia and Bahrain later permanently opened their airspace for flights between Israel and the UAE. On September 3rd, EIAI announced that it would operate weekly indirect cargo flights to the UAE through the Belgian city of Liège, with the first one scheduled for September 16th, carrying agricultural and high-tech equipment. On September 10th, Insair Air, Insair is rare, I don't know, became the first airline company, blah, 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 blah. Habtour Hospitality became the first Emirati hotel group to serve kosher food. See, look at this. So, as far as the details behind, how all of this came to be, what makes up this agreement, what the parameters are, all that shit, the transparency that you would think we would want, well, yeah, we don't get to know about that. But we do get to know about the first flight, and we get to know about the first hotel to serve kosher food. The Orthodox Union was selected to certify kosher food. Like, this is just fucking stupid. On September 9th, the Arab League refused to condemn the UAE's decision to normalize with Israel after several countries objected to the submitted Palestinian draft resolution. Nevertheless, Secretary General Ahmed Abul Gheit said, The goal all our Arab countries seek without expectation is to end the occupation and establish an independent Palestinian state on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. Isn't that strange how like none of these countries are coming to the aid of the Palestinians as the annexation is happening, as the genocide is happening? Get confirmed rejection of any accords presented on an international stage which negatively impacted Palestinian rights over or the status of Jerusalem. You know, the thing where Trump officially recognized Jerusalem as part of Israel, just completely destroyed all that shit, which shouldn't matter at all. Like when Israel decided they wanted that large section of the Golan Heights in Syria, and they just took it. And the Trump administration signed the resolutions saying that this large area of Syria now belongs to Israel. And if anybody has a problem with that, they're going to have to deal with the United States. What kind of fucked up shit are we dealing with here? What kind of crazy ass narrative is this? September 22nd, United States Secretary of Defense Mark Esper assured Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz during his visit to Washington that Israel's military edge will be protected. Remember what I was just telling you about? A sentiment earlier echoed by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Speaker of the House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi, who, following President Donald Trump saying that he personally had no problem with selling F-35s to the UAE, warned that any such decision would be scrutinized by the United States Congress. While the two countries had long maintained de facto recognition in areas of business, including the diamond trade, what a surprise, and high-tech industries, including artificial intelligence and defense, the accord opened the door to a much wider range of economic cooperation, including formal investments. Abu Dhabi Investment Office opened its first overseas branch in Israel, and on October 13th, Dubai-based New York Coin Group has announced its intention to purchase Israel, I don't know, the airline. Since the signing of the Abraham Accords, the United Arab Emirates has welcomed 200,000 J tourists, and the J population is estimated to have risen by 10,000. How many UAE people do you think are in Israel since then? Do you notice how one-sided this is? It sounds like they're colonizing. It sounds like they're spreading like cancer. And it's only one-sided. It's only one way. The wedding of Rabbi Levi Dutchman and Leah Haddad, held on the second anniversary of the signing, was the largest J event in the country's history, hosting 1,500 guests. They sure do love that 1,500 number, including high-ranking Emirati officials and foreign ambassadors from over 20 countries. That's it. That's it. Analysis. According to Hanu Jusal at the University of Helsinki, the agreement meant that Palestinians would think that the UAE put its own interests before those of the Palestinians, who had always assured that Arab countries would not sign peace treaties with Israel before the rights of Palestinians had been guaranteed. Gee, I wonder why they would think that. Lisa Goldman, founder of Plus 972 magazine, stated that bitch-ass Netanyahu never intended to annex part of the West Bank, but the UAE is claiming a diplomatic victory in exchange for what's probably a lot of very valuable security cooperation from Israel, all on the backs of the Palestinians as usual. Amira Haas, wrote that the agreement is the product of ongoing neglect by the Palestinian National Authority of relations with the UAE. The Palestinian National Authority is controlled by Israel. According to Haas, diplomatic relations were severed by the PLO in 2012 in repudiation of the UAE's good relations with Mohammed Dahlan, the political enemy of the PLO's chairman Mahmoud Abbas. Where is Mahmoud Abbas gone? He's the Palestinian Authority's fucking big guy, right? Where's he disappeared to in the last few months? The PNA's animosity towards the UAE continued in June 2020 when the PLO rejected aid sent by the UAE during the COVID-19 pandemic on the grounds that it was sent without prior agreement and through an Israeli airport. Right, because they didn't trust it. If I was a Palestinian anything and I found out that Israel intercepted whatever I was to get, like, it's like how it's happening right now, where the aid that's supposedly going to the Gaza Strip is now supposed to be handled by Israeli firms with unknown financial backers. We're supposed to believe that the Israel that is has the biggest murder boner ever and is openly committing genocide against the Palestinian people should now be in charge of the aid that the Palestinian people get as a result of what Israel has done to them? How does that ever make sense? And when you think about, anything being rejected, knowing it's gone through Israeli airports or whatever, remember the pagers that nobody talks about. The pagers and electronic devices from a year or two ago, some 1,200 or whatever that exploded all at the same time because Israel had intercepted them, put a little tiny explosive in them, and then had them all go off at the same time. How do we not see this? Haas depicts a PLO more concerned with internal politics than with governance, contributing to an economic decline and strained foreign relation. Yep, it's the Palestinians' fault. Because they don't just want to play nice. On August 16, 2020, the Financial Times editorial board wrote that the accord, rather than delivering peace, is likely to exacerbate Palestinians' sense of hopelessness and produce more problems in the future, as the Israeli and U.S. governments have shown no interest in a fair resolution of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Because the only fair resolution is to get rid of Israel. There's no reason why the Palestinians should have to give up their everything for Israelis. For Jays. It's supposed, like I said earlier, World War I and World War II were about establishing Israel. World War I, you had the Balfour Declaration, then you had World War I, which was about establishing British control over Palestine, making it British mandate Palestine. And for the next 20, 30 years, the people had been lulled to sleep. They didn't need a military because the fucking British were doing it. They didn't need to worry about any sort of defense because the British had their back. And then just before May 15th, 1948, when the Nakba took place, I'd say the British pulled out, but they didn't. They just turned around because Israel didn't have a military. Israel didn't exist. So how could Israel have a military? How could there be any sort of fighters? Where were they trained? What facilities were they using where they made all of these Israeli soldiers that came out of nowhere? How did that even happen? Obviously, the British just turned around and started, executing and kicking out the Palestinians that live there. And they did that because World War II established the excuse. For some reason, the crazy German who did everything he could to avoid the war tried everything, tried 6 times to meet with and say, look, we don't want this. Please don't do this. Germany just wants to be left alone. We don't want the Jays in our country fucking things up. They only care about them. They're not about us. We don't want them. If you actually know the history behind World War II, it's kind of fucked. It's really, really fucked up. And it's not at all what the system spent a month every year brainwashing my generation and earlier. Every year we had at least a month worth of World War II, Holocaust bullshit propaganda that was instilled in all of us, forced into all of us. They spent a lot of effort to try to get us to believe that narrative. And we never found out that Hitler tried everything he could to avoid it. Hitler was just an actor. The whole thing is just bullshit. It really is just a whole bunch of bullshit. It was all just this orchestrated bullshit. The 6 million Jays, that shit was in newspaper after newspaper prior to, where they were programming people to accept this number. The reality is there were only about 3 million Jays in Europe at the time, and most of them escaped here. So where 6 million came from it's just a falsehood. But going back. The New York Times regarded the accord as a timely foreign policy breakthrough for President Donald Trump in the context of the November 2020 presidential election, where opinion polling had him trailing his presidential challenger, Joe Biden, amidst pronounced social unrest in the United States and an economic downturn resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. They had to bring in Biden so they could extend the Trump presidency. Right? They brought Trump in because they needed to do something drastic. I don't think Trump was supposed to be president until 2020. But they needed to do something because the people were fucking ready to revolt. Me Too and all the race stuff and everything that was happening, prior to 2016. Especially after giving us Obama and how mad that made all the white people. We were ready to revolt. Pizzagate was huge. They needed something to cover the tracks, so they brought Trump in a presidency early. And then they had to do something. So they just brought Biden in to sort of put it in neutral for 4 years. But they needed Trump to be president, the last president before the next 2029 crash, because they love their 100-year cycles. So this year we were 1 year off. Instead of 17-18, it was 19-20 with COVID. The 17-18 Spanish flu, they love their 100-year cycles. Did you guys know that there was a mini recession in 1909? Just like there was in 2009? You guys just, they hide all this shit from you, but it's all well orchestrated. Deutsche Welles journalist Christian Knipp stated that the Palestinians were looking for new allies post the deals of the UAE and Bahrain with Israel. However, allying with Iran and Turkey could upset the European Union member states. Wouldn't want to make the Jays in charge of the European Union member states mad at you. They're just supposed to not have any allies then, right? As such, they were even eyeing Russia and Qatar to give support to their cause. Both countries have some level of contact with Israel. Qatar signed a fucking deal. Why do you think they were allowed to have World Cup? The Times of Israel's Middle East analyst, Avi Issacharoff, called it an earthquake for the Palestinians and stated that while the Palestinians are not going anywhere, the PNA might be. Amos Yadlin and Asaf Orion wrote that the Emirates chose normalization in an effort to improve relations with the United States and pro-Western countries, given the recent deterioration in ties between the UAE and Iran, as well as the country's close ties to China and Russia. Bum, bum, bum. And that's it. So that was what happened when I looked up normalization deal. Israel United Arab Emirates normalization agreement is what it showed me. What is the normalization deal? According to Trump and Netanyahu, Israel and the United Arab Emirates will fully normalize their diplomatic relations. They will exchange embassies and ambassadors and begin cooperation across the board on a broad range of areas, including tourism, education, healthcare, trade, and security. Gosh, that's weird. That's word for word what was said in the other thing. Without quotes. It's interesting how you can't find what normalization agreement actually means. Like what does it mean? Here we go. Let's try this. Normalization agreement. Wikipedia. It gives me talk or article. It doesn't give me anything else. It gives me normalization agreement may refer to Bahrain, Israel normalization agreement, Israel, Morocco normalization agreement, Israel, Sudan normalization agreement, Israel, United Arab Emirates normalization agreement. See also Abraham Accords, Arab-Israeli normalization, Kosovo and Serbia economic normalization agreements in 2020. I clicked on Arab-Israeli normalization. Since the 70s, there has been a parallel effort made to find terms upon which peace can be agreed to in the Arab-Israeli conflict and also, specifically, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Over the years, numerous Arab League countries have signed peace and normalization treaties with Israel, beginning with the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty in 1979. Despite the failure to implement the Israeli-Lebanese peace accords in 1983, more treaties continued with the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, 1991 to present, the Israel-Jordan peace treaty in 1994, the Abraham Accords, normalizing relations between Israel, United Arab Emirates, Israel, Bahrain, 2020, Israel, Sudan normalization agreement, 2020, and the Israel-Moroccan normalization agreement, 2020. Moreover, numerous Arab League members established semi-official relations with Israel. Isn't that interesting how in 2020, Trump was so busy? Like, when was Trump doing this? We had COVID going on, and that was an election year. He had to, most of the year, he was running for election. He was trying to get voted in. So when was the Trump administration working out these, I would imagine, kind of complicated normalization deals with three of the biggest countries in that region? Kind of strange, don't you think? The funniest thing is acting like that's somehow, supposed to be like a benefit to his election. The Jays make up 2% of the United States population and 0.183% of the world's population. Why anyone would ever focus on 2%? What does 2% of the population want over the 69% of white people, unless you, of course, include those with Hispanic backgrounds and remove them because they're tainted. Those with Hispanic backgrounds who consider themselves white. Well, if you take those out, it's only 55%. Black people make up 13% of the population. So 2% of the population, who gives a shit what 2% of the population thinks? Yet they try to make it sound like, well, Trump was really Biden for his fucking his victory in the election, so he was working out all these normalization deals with Israel where we pay for Israel's security and benefit through American tax dollars. Funny how these were supposedly these great things for the country, yet there was no talk about it. Other than it being mentioned when it happened. There's no talk, there's no nuts and bolts to it. We don't know shit about it. I can't even find out the definition of normalization deal. What does normalization actually mean? Anyway, is what it is, I guess. As always, I'm going to tell you, go check the description. You'll find a link to the website, www.the-bilderberg, BILDERBERG-group.com. It's where you can get your free download. It's going to tell you it's an unsecured website, and they're going to do everything they can to try to get you to not pay attention because I'm wrong and I'm crazy. But go there, click download. It'll ask you how much you want to pay for it. You can put $150, $1,000, $10,000 if you want. We appreciate any donation and all of the donations because we've gotten several and we appreciate it. But we only ask that you share it with someone. You can put $0 and still get the download. All of it. All of it's free. All we ask is that you share it with somebody. Instead of charging you $5, I'd rather give you that $5 back to promote us, to share our music with someone. So go get your free download. There's also a link to a YouTube. It's a YouTube link to a movie made in 1998, I believe, called Hollywoodism, that flat out, undeniably explains how the Jays magically, they don't give you the details, of course, as to how they managed to just magically create Hollywood, but how they used Hollywood to create the America they wanted. The American dream is the J dream, is an actual statement from the movie. And it's the best thing you can go see because it's not some conspiracy theory. It's not someone like me that made it. If I made that movie and had nothing but people of color in it, and instead of saying us and them, we said, they, or instead of saying us and we said they and them, everybody would call it anti-Semitic tropes, and how dare you make such a movie insinuating the Jays control Hollywood and always have and used Hollywood to create the America that they wanted, and everything we think and know is essentially controlled by them. How dare you say something like that? So they said it. They actually made this video bragging about their accomplishment. Go watch it. It's the most important thing you can see as far as resetting your brain and letting you understand what you're up against. There's also going to be 2 links to the Facebook music videos for COVID Sauce and Donald Trump Hates America, 2 of our newest songs. Go like those videos, go share them, go like the page. Help the fuck out. I've been saying all these same things for quite some time, and I was fighting against ignorance. But nowadays, it's pretty well known that I've not only right, I've been right. This is a Goyim versus the cult war that we're in. And we need to win because they're just going to Palestine all of us. If we let them, they will do it to all of us. So it's time that we, the Goyim, unify and overthrow the Jays that control the narrative. Whether you want to know the real shape of the earth, whether you believe it's round or flat, whether you're all about those vacations or you disagree, whether you think that the genocide, the pedos, all of it. If you want to stop all of those horrible things, we have to unify and eliminate the people that are committing genocide right now. We have to eliminate their narrative, the one that controls our reality. And you'll notice that nobody can ever tell me I'm wrong about that. They just desperately try to prevent me from saying it. Desperately try to get us to stop communicating. I had some 60, 70 viewers on this until before the comment section got removed. And of course, anybody who's looking, oh look, we're talking about Yiddish. Anybody who is, on here and maybe new starts talking to me, asking me questions, and I just ignore them, they're going to feel neglected. And they're going to be like, fuck this guy. He's not even looking at the comments and shit. There are no comments. The last comment I can see is, who the FK is blind Billy? Dude, tweaking, just walking around in your house. Like, this is how long ago the comments were. Well over an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. Yeah, well over 2 hours ago. It was like at the 38-minute mark or some shit, the comments suddenly got removed. And go figure that the number dropped. They're working against us. Why aren't we working against them? Why are you distracted by skin color, sexual orientation, or preference? Why are you distracted by goofy sky daddies? Or the one of, hey, we're going to slap you with the left hand, we're going to slap you with the right. Which one do you want? Why do you think you're smart? Because you go, hey, what hand are you? And they go, well, we're right-handed. And you go, oh, well, I'll pick the left hand because I don't think you can slap as hard with your left hand. I'm smart. Whether you pick Trump or Biden or Harris, it's all the same Israeli puppets. This last election, the bullshit third-party choice was Jill Stein. Harris has a J husband and had a J vice president. Or you could pick Trump, the greatest friend that Israel and the Israeli people have ever known. Now, he had a different fucking vice president because, what was it, 42 out of the 46 people in his previous cabinet all denounced him and said they wouldn't do it. Were like totally against him, including his vice president. Yeah, just more bullshit, I guess. But your three choices were all pro-Israel. 100% pro-Israel. Not much of a choice when you actually look at it. It's all just a play. It's all just theater, there to fuck with you and manipulate you. So, go get your free download. Please, please. I'm not getting you to watch my thing. I want you to watch the thing they put out for us. They put it out there. I get literally nothing out of you watching Hollywoodism other than maybe you figure something out and can come tell me I'm wrong about, Maybe you'll get that out of it. But that doesn't benefit me in the slightest. Go watch it. Go watch Hollywoodism. And go check out the 2 music videos along with a whole bunch of others. They're just way to connect and stay connected through Facebook. And you can share it with your people. Share it. Help. It's good. It's different, but it's good. Go check it out. Go share it. Everybody have a great day, and most importantly, again, the most important thing I ever say on these videos, by far, is that you pedophiles, kill yourself.